I just noticed that.
All right, we're just waiting for everybody to join live. So we are live now. So can you hear us? Can you hear us, Jacqueline?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. You sound a little shaky.
Far away?
No, shaky. Like it sounds like really bad. Are you in a Wi-Fi space?
No.
No?
Can you hear me better?
Yeah, it sounds like your microphone is like echoing.
You know what? Let me disconnect and disconnect the Bluetooth. Sometimes it happens like this.
There it goes. We can hear you better now.
Is this better?
Okay. Yes, that's way better.
Yes. I don't know, sometimes with the AirPod.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Great. Well, hey guys. Yes, we are excited to have Jacqueline Ruiz here with us and just having a conversation with Jacqueline. She is like Emilia Earnhardt. Many of us went to school and we found out who the first woman pilot was, and it was Amelia Earnhardt. So when you think about Amelia Earnhardt and what she did for women in aviation, just think about Jacqueline, but the Latina version. She's opening up the doors to many Latinas in aviation. She's one of the first Latinas in aviation that is going to take that exact same course and drive the plane the same route that Amelia Earnhardt drove as well. So thank you so much, Jacqueline, for coming and being here and talking with us at Pretty Smart Foundation. I am so glad to have you here.
Thank you. I am super excited. And yes, I wish I could fill the shoes of Amelia Earhart. I mean, she did some spectacular things. And I'm just participating in a race that she did 91 years ago with two other pilots in crossing the United States. So that's my connection, right? And I appreciate that you elevate me to that level, but I think I have a few more mountains to climb to get to her status. But I am passionate. There is an international movement with my Latinas in Aviation book, the magazine, and getting a lot of attention around the world, elevating Latina pilots that came from military, that came from the commercial space, and also from the kind of the private sector, coming together and elevating them in any way that I can. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. And yes, I mean, Amelia Earhart has pretty big shoes to fill. She's really, the first one, so she's a pioneer. But that's still pretty amazing that you're going to take on that same trip that she did, right? So how does that look different than when she first did it?
So when she did it in 1929, there were 20 women flyers, as they used to call them. It was around the time in aviation that a lot of people were beating records. For example, there's another really famous pilot. Her name is Jackie Cochran, that we don't hear a lot of, but she is absolutely amazing. She broke the speed of sound with her plane. And like one of the pictures that I love, because her name is Jacqueline too, but she is shown in front of a plane with putting on lipstick. And that photo just, it's amazing, right? And so many others that kind of paved the way for us. But essentially, they took on from California all the way to, I think it was Indiana. And they went on this amazing route, making different stops. Unfortunately, one of them passed away in the journey. They used to do this race for men. In 1929 was the first time they did it for women. I believe Amelia Earhart won third place in the race. And then they continued it on. So imagine 91 years later, I get to participate in the same race. We have, in 2020 got canceled. So this year we're basically doing it as a derby so that, because of COVID, and because of, people, doing that. So what we're basically doing is doing the same route, and they're going to give us a GPS, and we're going to basically do that, and they're going to time us, but doing it in different times so that we can kind of be safe, with all the COVID regulations. But it's beyond exciting. It's mind-boggling, to think, three pilots, two Mexican pilots and one American, together we can compete as one of the 54 teams to cross the United States, 2,400 miles, 8 stops, and every year the route changes. So you don't know what route, as pilots, we have to, plot the route and see what it is. But every day, every year, the route is revealed to the world, and then you have to, make it all happen. So
Wow, this is really interesting. So tell me, Jacqueline, what interested you in driving an airplane or being an air pilot or wanting to be in the air?
you know what, I used to race on the track with my husband. So that adrenaline and that, feeling the speed, and, and there were some competitions that I won, in autocross settings, which is basically turning a parking lot into a little racetrack, and you have to do it in 30 seconds or less. So it was super exciting, and, I used to take some of my friends there for like an entire day of racing, and, and finish up with a nice dinner, a nice meal. And I got an opportunity to do a discovery flight about 6.5 years ago. And they took me up on a plane, a two-seater that I thought it was a toy. I mean, literally, when I saw it at an hot air balloon show, I was like, I think this is like a toy, right? Like, no, it actually flies. So they took us up on a plane, my husband first, and then, they took me up with no doors on the plane in the summer. It was the most beautiful, amazing experience. And even though, I was like, okay, need for speed, and my husband loves that, it was really hard for me to like not like fall in love with the magic of, the air. Even though I didn't feel like when you're flying an airplane, you don't feel the speed. You could be going 120 nautical miles, like, and you don't feel, you just, sometimes you feel like you're suspended in the air. And it is an amazing feeling for me, as a cancer survivor, as a poverty survivor, as a survivor of stigmas and all these things. To me, it was like magic. Like, I don't know how to describe it, like freedom, like beauty. And I just wanted more of it. And one day I just decided, I will say that I had no idea what it would take for me to become a pilot. I had no clue because I had never done it and never heard of it, like as far as like the process. And I remember when I went to the aviation school and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna be a pilot." And then I found out that 80% of the people that start as a hobby never finish because it's so hard. It's expensive. It requires a lot of your patience. It requires a lot of your guts. A lot of people get scared because you have, you're controlling. There's no redundancy systems in these little planes, and you're controlling basically everything that happens in the plane. You're like making it happen as a pilot. So I just never gave up because I wanted to take my husband to lunch. I wanted to fly my husband to lunch. So that was in the back of my mind. I'm like, I have to make this happen. And, finally, when it did, it was like the most funny thing happened. You're not going to believe it. We went to a skydiving airport. Imagine, like, we were people, like 18, 20 people dropping from 14,000 feet, like little ants with colors, with the big, and I was coming in to land, and I had to make sure that I was kind of away from them so that they wouldn't land on my plane. I landed, and then, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you said something. So then what happened was that the server said, "Hey, where are you guys coming from?" And my husband said, "Oh, we flew in from this other airport." "Oh, that's beautiful. You must be a great pilot." And I didn't say anything, right? Because, it's like, it just goes to show that typically people think, oh, men have to be the ones that are pilots, right? And my husband said, no, actually, the pilot is my wife.
Oh,
So imagine that moment, right? Like the feeling of that moment and saying, you know what? I studied, I paid, I didn't give up, I was patient, in patience in managing weather, managing the schedule of my instructor, managing my own schedule, managing the airplane's, schedule, and I made it happen. So to me, it was like I finally got here, and then of course, people think, oh, you know, he's a pilot. I'm like, why? But yeah, I did it, and I've had, I've been flying now for 6 years, and got my license to carry passengers in 2018. And then, I fly with a little teddy bear since day one. So imagine this little teddy bear. Her name is Emilia. A friend gave it to me for my first solo flight. And then I wanted to kind of like share my love for what I'm doing in aviation. And so I then created another teddy bear. And I've given away 875 teddy bears. And there's
wow.
all around the world.
That's amazing. 8,500?
800,
Oh,
875.
875. This is awesome. And you just hand them out to girls, boys, or just everyone?
I've given them to kids with cancer. I've given them to the Latinas in Aviation authors that are part of my book, sharing their amazing, brave stories. I've
Oh, I
given
would, yeah. I mean, if I'm a Latina in aviation, I would love to have a bear. That is so cute. Oh my
Yes,
goodness,
you're going to
yes.
get one for sure.
Awesome. And you called her Amelia. Why did you pick Amelia? Same thing?
But because of that, yes, because she was fearless. She did something, crossing the Atlantic Ocean. I mean, even though the second time, she was never found, but just this like grit, like she was focused, she made it happen, and and I think she created she paved the way for so many of us as women to continue our dreams and to say, you know what, I can fly a plane. Because when you're landing a plane, the plane does not know if you're a male or a female, if you're short or tall. I mean, the plane knows precision. So a lot of times, we say, oh, we are at a disadvantage because we're women and we're this. And the way that I like to think about it is thinking, you know what? Um, I literally like, I am a pilot in command, and I do everything that is needed and required for the plane to land successfully. And I've done it 400 times. And I do it and I focus, with all my heart on the landing. And then, hey, by the way, I'm a Latina, right? I was like, but the plane doesn't know that, right? It just knows, did you land like butter?
No, yeah, definitely. And that's, isn't it so crazy that a machine does not recognize who's the pilot, who's the one behind the actual steering wheel? But just the lack of representation of Latinas in aviation. And so I know that that's a little bit that's close to your heart. You are part of the Latino Association for Aviation. And how has that been since you first started, and how behind are we, or how advanced are we, or how much more work do we have to do?
Yeah, and I actually, what I created was Latinas in Aviation, which is a basically a compilation of stories. So we started out with a book, and then we decided, you know what, all the proceeds from this Latinas in Aviation will help young Latinas to have access to one scholarship a year. So I just gave away a $5,000 scholarship from the books, the teddy bears, and the water bottles and the journals that we sold with the Latinas in Aviation brand. We are speaking with 3 different museums across the United States that will do a permanent exhibit of Latinas in Aviation. And we're doing a global festival, for Latinas in aviation, the first of its kind. First one in the United States, second one in Mexico, and the third one, we're thinking between France and Germany, because we have a big community there of pilots in general aviation. And the association that I was mentioning to you is basically the Association of Mexican Pilots. And I associate myself with a lot of different organizations, not necessarily, being part of their board, but really collaborating with them. Like, for example, I just did a presentation for them for their pilots, the commercial pilots, and how do they find motivation? I mean, they've gone through a very difficult time. If you're a commercial pilot, a lot of them have been laid off, furloughed because of the pandemic and because of the situation that's happening. So just trying to do so much and as much as I can to elevate the hearts and the minds of pilots, and for those that have not entered the industry, to let them know that they have so many options. They can become accident investigators, they can be instructors, they can be air traffic controllers. There's so much. And I've just like I dove like I dove into the industry both feet in, and because I love marketing, and this is what I've been doing for my entire life, really, since my business life, I guess. I just take that passion, my knowledge as a marketer, and sort of like unite it and put it together so that I can serve through the scholarship and other things, the community.
That's wonderful. That's really great. I mean, I'm so happy to see you giving back to the community and just what the whole project entails and what it's all about. I know many times, Latina girls who would like to be in aviation, it's not possible. And just that you give them that opportunity and that scholarship makes it just as much or even more personal to them, right? And then you have the book, what talks about them, and you share stories of other Latinas, which I feel like there's a lot of Latina stories missing. So kudos to you for doing that book. That's really important. And I feel like that's an important part of our Latino heritage that is missing in America, that is missing for Latinas, Latina girls. And that's something that we can, my daughter can look forward to reading that. Just so that she can know other stories of other Latinas, like yourself, who, went in head first and you decided that you wanted to be in aviation and you wanted to be a pilot. And that right there is very inspiring. I think that your profession as a marketer probably prepared you for that. But also too, that's fantastic. Just to know that, you went in head first and you didn't get scared and you didn't let anything scare you. But were there some challenges along the way that you might have experienced when you were trying to do pilot school while you were managing your profession?
Yes, I mean, to think of, for example, managing two businesses, two growing businesses, a lot of demand for clients, and two nonprofit organizations, one in the United States and one in Mexico, and a career as an author, as a speaker. In 2019, I had an opportunity to travel to 7 countries, 3 different continents. I was, basically for 80 days, I was on the road, from Belgium to, Paris, to Amsterdam, Germany, coming back to Costa Rica, coming back up to Dubai, coming back to the United States, all in like a period of 80 days. And, so very difficult, right? Because I couldn't do my training while I was traveling. And then coming back and saying, okay, let me reconnect to this knowledge. Let me reconnect to my my wit and my grit, and and get focused, because when you're flying an aircraft, yes, you're multitasking because there's a lot of stuff going on, both inside and outside of the plane. And I think it was one of the most difficult things. It's like, wow, there's a lot going on, because people say, oh, men are not multitaskers, but a lot of the men are pilots. And what you have to do when you're flying a plane, when you're the pilot in command. Let me tell you, it's, you know, you're doing 20 things at the same time. And so I had to learn communications in shorthand, you know, like we communicate as pilots. I had to learn, you know, about weather, like almost like a meteor, you know, like a weather expert, you know. You have to learn so much about the engine. So imagine fitting all that information. I always say that my brain expanded 25% in the process of becoming a pilot to basically be able to store all this amazing knowledge that I had to depend on for my life. You know, when you're flying your daughter, you're flying your husband, and they don't know how to fly an aircraft, you can't just remember lesson three from the class. I mean, you have to remember everything because that's going to save your life. So it's apply knowledge. It's intense, but it's worth it. You know, when the FAA examiner says you are, like, hands you over, and it says you are a pilot in command. Oh my God, I get goosebumps thinking about it, you know. And then, of course, you know, then the big responsibility of, you know, I have to take passengers. I have to take my 71-year-old dad, you know, back then when I flew him for the first time, my brothers, my husband, my kids. You know, when my daughter was 7, I took her out for the first time. And I mean, it's like, I have to land this plane, right? And I've experienced a lot of turbulence, you know, myself, you know, sometimes by myself and sometimes with other people. Crosswinds, you know, really scary moments, but I never gave up. Here we are.
That's amazing. Wow. I could not imagine how much um, knowledge it is to take all that information in and then have your life depend on it. And like you said, it was a big responsibility, and it is a big responsibility. So did you believe that it was your responsibility to be the Latino representation in the market for Latinas? I'm asking you this because I know that, you know, there's not really been that voice for Latina representation in aviation. And I feel like as a marketer and someone who is in marketing and branding, it's easy for us to develop that brand, but it's we really don't understand the impact that we're going to make for others when we are starting it. So we just started. Was that process the same to get the word out for Latinas to talk about Latinas in aviation?
You know what I think? I was really focused on landing on that goal, right? Because I think that everything comes in with its right time. Everything, one thing, one achievement leads you to the next, and so on and so forth. And for me, it was like I had to find the beauty inside of me first. I had to discover and I had to challenge myself in finding out, you know, am I capable of doing this? There were days that I felt really dumb because I would practice my landings and they were not perfect. I mean, they were safe, but they were not perfect. And I would land, you know, like 8 times. And sometimes I would even come home, you know, crying, saying, you know, I'm so dumb. I can't do this. I'm not born to be a pilot, even though that burning desire in my heart was guiding me, was pushing me to do it, right? And was like keeping me from not giving up. And I would get home, and my daughter, when I first started, she was about 5 years old. And she, as little as she was like, Mommy, you're not dumb. You're very smart. All you have to do is practice tomorrow. And I kind of never forgot those words because, you know, there were moments where you're just like, do I have what it takes? I mean, how many of us have doubted that we could do something? And, you know, and yes, you start looking around and you start noticing that there are no other Latinas that look like you know, because a lot of them are retired Caucasian CEOs or, you know, Caucasian men that they kind of want to explore, or maybe younger kids that their parents, you know, have money and they decided, you know what, they want to get their pilot's license because it's not cheap. So then you kind of find yourself in that. But I knew that I had to first focus. Like I couldn't lead with, oh, I'm a Latina and therefore I'm underrepresented. Oh, I'm a Latina and therefore I can't. I'm a Latina and therefore like I shouldn't speak the language of pilots. Like I kind of like tuned that away for a moment and I said, I am a human being that is trying to operate an aircraft with precision for safety because I believe this in my heart with all of it, all of my heart. And I'm not giving up because I don't give up. And that's not who I am. And I'm going to conquer fear and indecision and doubt, and I'm going to make this happen. So that's what I led with. Then, once I had gotten my license, they're like, oh, I believe in you, right? I was like, yeah, but how come you didn't believe in me when I first started? When I was doubting myself, when I was like, and then that's when I started noticing that I could be a voice for those people that felt the same way that I did. But it was until after the fact that I said, well, I got my license. The plane doesn't know the difference of, Latina or men or women. But I was able to conquer this plane because at the beginning I felt that I was strapped to a plane. And then about 5 months into my training, I realized that the plane was an extension of me. And that was a big wake up moment. Um, but like I said, the plane doesn't know if I'm Latina, if I'm short, if I'm, as long as I can reach the ailerons, and all the trim, I can make all this stuff happen, that I need to control the beautiful angle of attack and the energy of the plane, and then after the fact, I said, hey, by the way, hey, I'm kind of short, I'm kind of Latina, I'm kind of a woman, like you start kind of figuring it out. And then I'm like, how come there's not people who look like me? Oh my gosh. Can other people find their magic? Can other people operate an aircraft like I do, like I've learned how to do? Can they do this? And then I started finding more. And I've taken up like over 100 Latinas up in that little plane. And about 6 of them said, I want to do this. So it's exciting, but I think you first have to lead with your heart, convince your mind that you are worthy, that you're doing this. And then once you've achieved it and you said, I've gotten here, I've done it in the context of, the aviation and becoming a pilot, I needed to demonstrate that we could do it, that I could do it. Because if I can, anybody can, right?
Wow, that's amazing. No, and it's so true. I feel like as long as you lead with your heart and you are really pursuing something with the utmost purest intentions, that it ultimately comes back tenfold and it just unravels into something that's just great and just worthy of an extension of yourself. And that extension of you is, you are a woman pilot. You are a woman in aviation. And it's not even about the plane knowing whether you're a Latina or a woman, but it's just the fact that you own that position and you own being a pilot and you own that you know how to do this and you're going to do this and you do this so well. And Jacqueline, you do this so well. I am just amazed by you and everything that you do. I mean, it's just wonderful. And the fact that we can read stories about other Latinas, I feel like is just really, really, really big. It's a huge deal, just so that we can read more stories, we can know more stories, and that you just continue to just, be that light, be that, lead trailblaze for other Latinas so that they can also go one day on an airplane and say that this is what they want to do. So I'm just so glad and I'm so thankful that you joined me today, and you were able to come on here and to share with us about everything that you do and about your journey. Where can our followers find you on social media?
I think the best way is probably Instagram. Well, actually, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, but Pilotina_official on Insta, and then Facebook and LinkedIn is Jacqueline Camacho. And you'll see the adventures of Pilotina, or you can also go to my website, jackiecamacho.com. You can see my 24 books. You can see my productivity journal, even links to some of the board games that I've created, the coffee brands that we have, and just all the magic, right? When you love what you do, everything sort of like expands, and then you just want to help more people, achieve their dreams as well.
Absolutely. That is so great. And I can't wait to have you back so you can tell us more about your next venture, or just about just being a leader, a Latina leader that you are, how you've just paved the way for so many Latinas and everything that you continue to do. Are your books in Spanish, or are they only in English?
I have five, but four in Spanish.
Okay, so the one is in English and the rest are in Spanish?
No, I have 24 total,
24. Okay.
and five of those are in Spanish.
Five are in Spanish. Okay, great. No, yeah, we need that. We definitely do. Well, that's great, guys. If you can go and search for Pilot Latina,
Pilotina.
Pilotina on Instagram and on Facebook. And then on LinkedIn, she's Jacqueline Ruiz. So you can find her, add her there. If you have any questions about wanting to be a Latina in aviation, you can add her and ask her. I'm sure she will be happy to answer any questions for you guys. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I really appreciate you being here. Is there anything you want to leave before we end the broadcast?
I think my favorite quote is taking off is optional, landing on your dreams is mandatory.
Yes.
Beautiful message.
Yes. We love it. Thank you so, so, so much. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time. All right. Bye, everyone.